I grew up in a very picture-perfect town in Missouri, little town. One day, Superman appeared in town, and it did not end well at all. And we lived in the kind of a town where the only word you need to describe things was the. So we would go fishing in the pond. We would go hiking in the woods. We spent a lot of time around the tree. Now, the tree was the oldest and largest tree in town. It was so perfect. Its picture was in the newspaper when it finally got cut down. And it's actually our family crest is that tree. Well, the roots of the Superman episode came from that tree. My uncles put a bag swing up there, and then he built this huge platform that when I was little, it was really huge. And we would get on that platform, we would jump off on that bag swing, and we'd swing out over the field. And it was like we were flying. You would just soar out there. And eventually we'd get a little braver, and we would try and get as many people as we could on that bag swing. And in all the years that we flew out over there, we only had one time when it didn't end well. And one of the people ended up in the emergency room with a broken arm, but that was only once. Another very important place to us was the barn. A lot of activities around the barn. It was just a favorite place to hang out. Not many years ago, that barn got torn down. Suburbia took it over, and they made picture frames out of the barn wood. One of my relatives made a beautiful picture that they made copies of. I now have that in my dining room to remind me of all the wonderful times we had at that barn. My favorite memory was when I was in high school. We had a Halloween party in the hayloft of the barn. Now, we had plenty of pumpkins and corn stalks and bales of hay, and we decorated it crazy. Now, the way you got into the hayloft was through a trap door in the floor. And so we put a bunch of tombstones and things around that trap door. And so when people came up into the loft, they would push that trap door up, and it looked like they came out of a grave. Well, my uncles saw this, and they thought it was picture perfect. So they decided they want to have their party there. Well, they're a little older than we were, and I'm pretty sure some adult beverages were involved. Well, there was this steel rail that ran in the ceiling the whole length of the barn. And one of my uncles came and appeared as Superman. So they decided Superman should fly. So they put this rope around him. They pulled him up to the top of the hayloft and started him soaring down this steel rail. This did not end well. They made two mistakes. They forgot to check the strength of the rope. They forgot to check for kryptonite in the barn. He made it about halfway. The rope broke. His cape unfurled behind him. He smashed into the floor right next to the cemetery. Now you have to picture this with me. Perfect night, very routine in the emergency room. In comes a bunch of adults in strange outfits. In their midst is Superman, and he has a broken arm. Well, the emergency room doctor looked at the broken arm. He looked at the cape, the sweatpants he had on, the S on his chest, and he lost it. He just broke down. He was laughing so hard he couldn't get anything done. The harder he tried to stop, the worse it got. In the end, they had to actually get a second doctor in there to get my uncle taken care of. Now, the Superman in the emergency room story was front page, above the fold, in the newspaper that week. My uncle had to go to work with his arm in a cast. And unfortunately for him, he was manager of the bowling alley. And you would not believe how cruel and unsympathetic bowlers can be in what was in every other way a picture perfect small town. The end.